Hello and welcome to UzReport World News, and my name is Bahram Ghafarov. Fossils dug up in Uzbekistan has revealed a previously unidentified species of dinosaur that was twice the size of a double-decker bus, Daily Mail said with reference to a new study. Called Gyrotitanus kingi, the gentle giant measured about 20 meters in length and was a cousin of Diplodocus, the largest creature to ever walk the planet.
Kingi inhabited a coastal plain at the westernmost point of the Asian landmass 100 million years ago when Earth continents were still bunched together. The creature had a whip-like tail and a long neck, enabling it to reach high into the trees to satisfy its enormous herbaceous appetite. A tailbone belonging to the dino was dug up by an international team at the Bisakti Formation in the Kizilkum Desert, known as Uzbekistan's dinosaur graveyard. The Bisakti Formation has yielded a vast number of mostly dissociated but often exquisitely preserved skeletal remains of vertebrates, researchers say. Kingi had a small head and razor-sharp pencil-like teeth and would have ripped whole branches off trees. Its massive frame was supported on 4 pillar-like legs. Kingi existed during the Cretaceous period, which lasted from 145.5 and 65.5 million years ago. It represents both a new species and a new genus in the already existing Rubachesaurid family. Rubachosaurids were sauropods, among the bulkiest creatures to have ever walked the earth, some weighing the equivalent of 14 African elephants. Rubachesaurid remains have been dug up in South America, Africa, North America, and Europe, but never before in Asia.
Shadow economy has always been a hindrance in ensuring the economic stability of Uzbekistan, according to Sherzad Kobiev, the head of the country's tax committee. As government has prioritized the freedom of speech, a group of entrepreneurs have voiced their concern after being in plain sight for years.
Even though the government has activated the fight against shadow economy, in particular with the activities of dubious enterprises, the system still leaves a lot to be desired. Some examples of taken measures would be the expansion of database of the state tax service authorities, the increase of the capacity of servers, wide use of modern technologies in the field, which provide the ability to automatically analyze business processes without the influence of the human factor, which make it possible to identify violations in tax legislation, to detect imaginary financial transactions. At the meeting, reasonable solutions were proposed for the problems raised. In particular, entrepreneurs who have a tax debt as a result of illegal acceptance of VAT amounts for offset, in accordance with the provisions of the tax code, are granted the right to pay in installments. For this, representatives of business entities must apply to the tax authorities with a statement.
March is approaching with new insertions into Uzbek legislation. The most anticipated law concerns the announcement of minimum consumer spending. The government also plans to introduce a new tourist tax for citizens staying in hotels across the country.
According to a new edition, brand new buildings, facilities and private houses of above 12 meters in height will have to be constructed after the project design document is reviewed. Entrepreneurs will be granted a right to install surveillance cameras to track traffic violations. Uzbekistan will also introduce a 10-day visa-free regime for citizens of Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman and China, including Hong Kong and Macau. Citizens actively participating in Mahal activities will receive monthly compensation in the amount of some $10.5 aimed to cover utility costs. To promote domestic tourism, the government introduces a mechanism of partial reimbursement of travel expenses. Thus, air carriers will be covered 25% of ticket costs. Tour operators and travel agents will receive their reimbursement totaling 15% of the cost of air and railway tickets on tours organized for citizens and stateless persons permanently residing in Uzbekistan, as well as 10% reimbursement of the cost of accommodation facilities.
A group of highly qualified Russian doctors arrived in Uzbekistan to conduct scientific and practical seminars, examinations and consultations of patients, demonstration of operations and masterclasses. The doctors of the Redin National Medical Research Center of Traumatology and Orthopedics will be in Tashkent from February 28 to March 3rd. In total, with the participation of the embassy, and the consular institutions of Uzbekistan in Russia in 2020 and the first quarter of 2021. About 150 highly qualified specialists in various fields of medicine were sent to our country to provide practical assistance. The Center for the Study of History of Foreign Countries was launched at Samarkand State University. This was announced by the Uzbek scientists at an international online conference.
The idea was proposed by a Western researcher, Germany's Associate Professor Bekzat Turakulov, with the leadership of the Faculty of History of Moscow State University and the Institute of General History Russian Academy of Sciences. At the Department of General History of Samarkand State University, scientists defended dissertations on the history of Bulgaria, Hungary, Great Britain, Germany, Poland. The researchers carried out their scientific work under the guidance of famous scientists from large research institutes and universities in Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Kiev. Foreign scientists assured their Uzbek colleagues that they would support the creation of the center and would take part in lecturing, holding joint scientific conferences for students, undergraduates, and faculty of Samarkand State University. They will also help to organize the training of specialists in regional studies, publish research results in scientific collections, as well as in cooperation with well-known universities, conduct practical training for students.
UAE-based entrepreneur Murari Lal Jalan, one of the proposed promoters of Jet Airways, is in advanced discussions with the Uzbek government to start a full-service airline and develop an airport in that country, according to an article published by Business Line. The council representing the consortium said that while Jalan's core area of business is in paper manufacturing and trading, photographic products, commodities, hospitality, real estate, among others, he is a novice in aviation industry. Jalan is in advanced discussions with the government of Republic of Uzbekistan and the state government of Namangan for developing a new airport in Namangan city. Jalan to be the majority shareholder in the airport and the airline entity. The airline is to give a major boost to aviation and tourism sector in Uzbekistan. The current wholesale prices for potatoes in Uzbekistan are 1.5 times higher than the levels recorded in the same period last year, according to information and analytics platform EastFruit. Uzbekistan has retained leadership in absolute values of prices for potatoes in the region and only last week lost first place to neighboring Tajikistan. What has caused a sharp rise in the prices for potatoes in Uzbekistan over the past few years? EastFruit experts analyzed the trends in the production, imports and consumption of potatoes over the past 2 decades to identify the main reasons for this growth.
The population growth, a decline in potato production growth, as well as growing volumes of per capita consumption were named as the main factors that contributed to a price surge. Over the past 4 years, there has been high volatility in potato prices in Uzbekistan. According to EastFruit experts, in 2017, the price of this product increased by 90%, and at the end of last year, the State Statistics Committee of Uzbekistan reported an increase of 42%. Inflation in these years also accelerated, but the rate of price growth for potatoes exceeded several times both the general inflation rate and the group of food products.
This is London's zero-waste top-up truck. It used to deliver morning milk to bleary-eyed Londoners. Now it's got a new lease of life as an electric-powered, package-free goods delivery truck. After being furloughed from her sales job in 2020, Ella Schoen used savings to start her new business delivering package-free food and household products around London in a former milk float.
So the idea is essentially to make it easier for people to shop zero waste. So they make a booking and I bring it to them. They bring their containers outside, they tell their neighbours, the neighbours jump on board. We also kind of post our locations on our website, and so other people can kind of get involved and fill up in somewhere that's nearer them.
Customers book a visit from the top-up truck online and then purchase goods such as lentils, pasta, olive oil and shampoo using their own containers. Sean is aiming to meet a demand which is rapidly growing. From a low base a decade ago, the market for unpackaged bulk goods could hit $1.5 billion by 2030 in the European Union, according to a report by Zero Waste Europe. The average UK household struggles to recycle even half of its waste. But recycling manager Andrew Zabala is just one of a growing number of Londoners who are reshaping their lives to reduce. He now manages to fit a month's worth of non-recyclable waste into a jam jar.
This is my laundry liquid bottle that I've used over the last 3 years. So I probably saved about 30 bottles in 3 years. Not many bottles, but if you times it by number of households that could do this, we could save billions of plastic bottles a year just by having a refill attitude to shopping. So recycling is good, but refilling is much better and reusing is much better. I spent the first 2 weeks stressing myself to death. There was so much information out there as to what you could do and things I couldn't do myself because I didn't have the means, and locally I didn't have those refilling stores back then. But I pushed myself, and that pushing myself did stress me and my husband a lot, but we did get in the end.
As the zero waste movement gains popularity in the UK capital, Ella Sean is planning a crowdfunding campaign to grow her top-up truck business and hopes her work will inspire even more people to go as waste-free as possible.
It'd be good to see big corporations kind of doing this, and it'd be good to sort of, if this could initiate change, outside of this small little sphere, then that's brilliant. Hopefully that this is the start of a kind of circular movement. It can inspire other people to start circular businesses.
18 months after a subpoena was issued for Donald Trump's tax returns, the Manhattan District Attorney has them in hand. A spokesman for the office on Thursday confirmed that District Attorney Cyrus Vance has other financial records, too, as part of a criminal probe into the former president and his family-run Trump Organization. The prosecutor's office obtained the stacks of records, including 8 years of tax returns, on Monday, the same day the U.S. Supreme Court rejected Trump's latest attempt to keep his longtime accounting firm from turning them over. Trump has long maintained the investigation is baseless and political.
This is just a continuation of the witch hunt. It's Democrat stuff.
Vance's investigation initially focused on hush money paid by former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen to adult film actress Stormy Daniels and former Playboy model Karen McDougal. The two women said they had sexual encounters with Trump, which he denied. In court filings, Vance later suggested the probe had expanded and could focus on potential bank, tax, and insurance fraud, as well as falsification of business records.
European health experts say thousands of COVID-19 patients continue to suffer serious, debilitating and lingering symptoms many months after their initial bout of infection, with major social, health and economic consequences. That's according to a World Health Organization-led report on the condition often referred to as long COVID or post-COVID syndrome. Hans Kluge is the WHO's European Regional Director.
Today, we shed light on the fact that in some patients, the disability following SARS-CoV-2 infection lingers on for months with severe social, economic, health and occupational consequences. The burden is real and it is significant. About 1 in 10 COVID-19 sufferers remain unwell after 12 weeks, and many for much longer.
An initial report by Britain's National Institute for Health Research last year suggested long COVID may be not one condition, but multiple syndromes, causing a rollercoaster of symptoms affecting the body and mind. Kluge noted that as with any new disease, much remains unknown about COVID-19. He urged health authorities to listen to patients' concerns, take them seriously, and establish services to help them.
The militaries of India and Pakistan issued a rare joint statement Thursday, saying that they had agreed to observe a ceasefire along the disputed border in Kashmir. The nuclear-armed neighbours signed a ceasefire agreement along the line of control in the Kashmir region in 2003. But the truce has frayed in recent years, and there have been mounting casualties among villagers living close to the de facto border. The joint statement said Both sides agreed for strict observance of all agreements, understandings and ceasefiring along the line of control and all other sectors with effect from midnight 24th, 25th of February 2021. The return to a truce was settled by the two armies' Director Generals of Military Operations. There has been a significant increase in ceasefire violations since 2014, leading to nearly 300 civilian fatalities, according to a source in Pakistan's military. Since the start of the year, India has counted 591 violations by Pakistan. Kashmir has long been a flashpoint between the neighbours, which claim the region in full but rule only parts. But tensions were renewed after New Delhi withdrew the autonomy of Jammu and Kashmir state in August 2019 and split it into two federally administered territories. Politicians in Indian Kashmir said they welcomed the commitment to a return to a ceasefire, one of the few signs of cooperation in recent years between the neighbours who have fought 3 full-scale wars since gaining independence in 1947.
Police say Donald Trump supporters that launched last month's deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol want to launch another assault. The chief of the Capitol Police said Thursday the threats point to a possible attack during an address by President Joe Biden. Acting Chief Yogananda Pittman called for continued high security around the building.
We know that members of the militia groups that were present on January 6th have stated their desires that they want to blow up the Capitol and kill as many members as possible with a direct nexus to the State of the Union.
While a date has not yet been set for this year's State of the Union, it typically happens early in the year. Washington, D.C. has been on unprecedented security since last month's attack, including fences topped with razor wire and checkpoints manned by the National Guard. About 5,000 troops are expected to stay through mid-March.
Wall Street's main indexes ended sharply lower on Thursday, with the Nasdaq index posting its largest daily percentage fall in 4 months. Investors rushed out of high-flying technology stocks such as Apple and Netflix, following a rise in U.S. bond yields, with the benchmark 10-year Treasury yield hitting a one-year high of more than 1.6%. Nicole Webb, financial advisor with Wealth Enhancement Group, directly links the sell-off in technology shares to higher yields.
I really do think this is responsive to the uptick in yield. This is accelerated, and it's accelerated quickly. And I don't think that Wall Street believes that there's mechanisms in place to stop it anytime soon. And as a result of that, is starting to really call into question whether or not the current valuations of companies make sense with interest rates at those levels.
But as the rest of Wall Street tanked, so-called meme stocks such as GameStop soared. The video game retailer was up almost 70% at one point in a rally reminiscent of the stock trading frenzy in January, when retail investors sent its share price skyrocketing, hitting hedge funds with bets on its decline. After the bell, food delivery company DoorDash reported an over threefold rise in quarterly revenue in its first results as a public company, but fell 10% after posting a net loss of $312 million for the quarter ending December 31st, bigger than last year's loss of $134 million.
Hyundai Motor is set to replace the batteries in some 82,000 electric vehicles over risks they could catch fire. Combined with an earlier recall, the problem looks set to cost the automaker about $900 million. The latest move mainly applies to its best-selling EV, the Kona. It was first recalled in October for a software upgrade after a series of fires. But in January, one of the upgraded cars then caught fire, prompting South Korean authorities to probe whether the first recall was adequate. The unit of LG Chem which makes the battery said Hyundai had misapplied its suggestions regarding battery management. It said the batteries themselves were not the fire risk. There have been 15 cases of fires involving the Kona EV. Most were in South Korea, but there were 2 in Canada and 1 each in Finland and Austria. Hyundai Motor shares were down close to 4% in afternoon trade on Wednesday.
So far, these were the latest news for today. Goodbye, take care.